Hi everybody, I'm Hector Garcia, CPA and Advanced QuickBooks Pro Advisor. And it's after tax season in 2025, and Intuit QuickBooks surprised us with a A/B test of a new redesign that they're calling the Fusion model. There's actually two versions of this, and I'm actually going to show you both, and I'm going to review and kind of show you what has changed. But prior to doing that, I want to talk about another change that you will see. It's very, very subtle, but it actually plays out to the bigger narrative that I'm going to try to break down in this video, which is when you first log into QuickBooks Online, right before you select your company file, you see, right before you log in, you see three sale pop-ups. One is add an additional company, get 50% off, which by the way, if you have one QuickBooks Online file and you add 2, 3, anything beyond the first one, they give you a 50% discount for the first year on that company file. You can see that by clicking on See Plans and Pricing. Now you see Simplified Payday, which basically they're alluding to payroll. And then we have Payments made Easy, which alludes to the payments add-on so people can pay you electronically. And if you click on any of these on the check mark, after you log in, it sends you straight into the sales page so you can buy that additional service. And so we'll go back and talk about that in a second. So I'm just going to log into this other company file so we can compare the two. So I'm going to start with the first one. So this is what they're calling an ABC test. So that means that you're going to see the old version of QuickBooks Online, which for context, we'll pull that up towards the end too to kind of compare the difference. And then you're going to see one version of this new Fusion model and then version 2 of this Fusion model. So we're going to start with the version, and it's also good to add that it's only a small percentage of QuickBooks Online users that got this. They literally, this popped up on April 17th, and they're going to be adding more users to this. They'll probably be tweaking this design as well. So by the time you're watching this, who knows if they have made a D version or E version or whatever of this. But I'll walk you through what's live now, just after tax season, April 2025. So the first thing you'll see on the left-hand side is you still see your Create button. That is the new button on the traditional QuickBooks Online file. And you get a new, slightly different animation. It's very subtle, but instead of animating like a menu coming from the right, it just sort of like comes from the center. So it does feel a little bit more modern. Now, all these options here, invoice, receive payment, statement, estimate, all these things are the exact same. Nothing has changed. But of course, if you are on QuickBooks Online Simple Start, Essentials, or Plus, which is different than the one I'm in and Advanced, you're not going to see things like project estimate or batch transactions. So there's some functionality that you just don't see in your version if you're looking at this, looking at the video on one screen and looking at yours on one screen, and you see new functions. They're not really new functions. They're just available only on the advanced version of QBO. But nothing really here changes. So nothing on the Create button. Now under the Bookmarks button, that's actually kind of interesting. The traditional version of QBO prior to the Fusion model does have bookmarks, but it just feels a little bit different. So you can add a bookmark to get started by clicking on the little pencil icon that takes you to the pop-up. Or you can click on bookmark the current page, and basically whatever the current page is, you can create a bookmark for. Now we already have a dashboard button here, so we would never really bookmark the dashboard. But if you want to go, for example, into sales, and then under sales, I want to go to invoices, I can actually bookmark this page. So I go straight into this page. So I click on bookmark, then click on bookmark the current page, and then click on save. Okay, and then essentially once I click on bookmark, invoices show up in there. Same thing if I go, let's say, for example, to inventory, and I go to products and services, and let's say this is a page that I usually go into. I go into bookmarks, click on bookmark current page, and click on save. Now, again, this stuff already exists on the regular version of QuickBooks Online. This is not a new feature, but it just looks different. It feels different. So it's important to point that out. It's also important to point out that I have to click on it to open the menu. There's no way to expand that or to show those favorites already showing in there. Now the dashboard button here takes you back into the home page, so to speak. And then all these functions, accounting, expenses, sales, customers, time, projects, that's what replaced the old left navigation bar. Now let's open that up really quick just to add some context. So if you look at the prior design here, the bookmarks are already expanded, right? Pre-expanded. So any bookmarks you create are by default showing. You don't have to click on a menu to see that, and you can collapse or expand that. So that part has changed, probably not for the better. I think most people prefer the bookmarks to be showing automatically. And the other thing is that in the traditional version, you hover over any of these options, transactions, sales, expenses, and the menu opens up immediately. I don't have to click on it to then expand and see the next option. So we go back into this version here. I actually have to click on these and then click once again to get. So it's a 2-click process versus on this one, I could hover over and then click on where I want to go to. So again, whether the click takes additional time or not, that's something that's for you to judge in terms of whether this is faster or not. The other thing you'll see is you got little icons, little cute icons next to each of these things. And maybe long term, as we memorize what these icons mean, you will be able to see a version of this where you don't see the text and you only see the icon. And that's really the value of icons, is so we can get rid of that text and get some of that that real estate back. Now, something I don't like about this is I don't see a way to collapse this extended bar, right? So like this right-handed bar, it doesn't seem like I can collapse it. And even this gray bar here doesn't seem like I can collapse it either. So essentially, I'm wasting a lot of real estate here on the left-hand side with this version. Like, just to give you some context, I can be on whichever version, whichever page I want to be in, and I can collapse the left navigation bar and get as much real estate as possible. So I'm not sure if they consider that piece, whether or not people are going to want that real estate, but I don't see a way to collapse that. And maybe after I do this video, Intuit realizes that they need to add a little button up here somewhere to collapse that, but that's just completely missing from this test. Now I want to go to this other version here, and this is another version of the A/B test, and it's slightly different. Again, let's just look at this again. So go back to the dashboard. So this one has the main categories up here in the top, which they're calling My Apps for some reason, which is very confusing because to me, an app is a third-party system that you connect into QuickBooks, but different challenge altogether. And I think this is part of the narrative that QuickBooks wants to give, is that they are an ecosystem of apps that works together as a single platform. Because I think part of what Intuit is trying to do is they're trying to remove the concept that QuickBooks is an application, and they want people to see Intuit, the brand, as an ecosystem. Kind of like when you think of Google and the Google suite of apps, it's the Google G Suite ecosystem. Where you think of Microsoft, there's a suite of apps. So I think that what they're trying to do is get you to identify yourself more with the Intuit brand than with the QuickBooks brand. I don't think they want to kill the QuickBooks brand, but I think they're trying to move more towards the one name, the one platform. And that's why they're calling even their functionality inside QuickBooks an app. So I think that's confusing, so to speak, especially for old school users like myself, where the word app or app added to QuickBooks has a very specific meaning. But to a brand new user, this will just sound, just visually, it feels like, oh my God, I get so many things with this QuickBooks ecosystem, and it feels like it comes with a whole bunch of apps, right? So as if Intuit is like your iPhone, and then every function is an app. And that's kind of I believe maybe the look and feel that they're trying to give out. Okay, so that gives you a general idea. So we have the categories here in the top of the dashboard. We have the My App section, which allows you to select each of these things. But look how long it takes me to get to banking. Look, I got to hover over My Apps, go to accounting, go to transactions, and go to bank transactions. That's 4 steps, okay? Now you can argue, well, Hector, just create a bookmark for that. Okay, true. I'll create the bookmark for that. So then I go into bookmarks, go to current page, but I still, when I'm in the home page, I still need to go into hover over book or click on bookmarks and then go to transactions. Again, it takes me an extra click. And to me, I'm a fan of avoiding clicks altogether. Like, I think, especially for someone like me that's in QuickBooks all day long, doing all sort of repetitive tasks, an extra click times 1,000 times, it really adds up. So that's a challenge for me. So let's take a look at this other version, what that looks like. I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, let's see. Let me just make sure both are in the same. This is 125%. That way it's apples to apples. So this is 125. Okay, apples to apples. Okay. So then this one, we get the dashboard button. Doesn't seem to be a bookmarks button anywhere. So no bookmarks button, at least not on the left-hand side. We'll explore to see if we see that on the right-hand side. There's the reports. Okay, that's also here. We got the reports here. So that seems to be the same reports. And then we have the icons, so to speak, the apps, so to speak. They're exposed in here. So instead of you having to click on my apps to open these, you see them right there. So I think I like this slightly better just because I get to come in here and it saves me one menu option to get into bank transactions, for example. And you don't get the apps carousel here in the top like you do with this version. So that's kind of slightly different from that sense. There's also this really cool kind of shortcuts buttons here in the top where you can click on show all, and then you can choose which are like your favorite actions, so to speak. So for example, let's say I get rid of all these things here. Let's say like creating an invoice, an estimate, recording a payment, and adding a customer is top priority for me. I click on save, and those are the only 4 buttons I see on the dashboard. Now you can still get to all that by going into the create button and all that stuff, but these are the default actions that show up in the dashboard. Let me see what's different here. So the reports menu, that works the same way. Okay, here, so let's go on the right-hand side. So they move the create button up here in the top next to contact experts. So but this one actually looks like it comes from the bottom. So it's a little bit slightly different in look and feel. So like this one kind of like appears from the center. It's like a little appearing trick there. And also, if you look at the corners seem to be slightly sharper. Maybe not. Let's go on this one. Yeah, they're probably about the same. Okay. That's nitpicky at this point, but I think even the font seems a little different. So if you look at the font for invoice, the font size, and this is a little bit bold when you highlight it. Let's see what this one looks like. Let's go to the create. Okay, so it's about the same. Maybe I'm looking for a difference that's not there. So there's the create button is there, so it's no longer on the left-hand side, it's up there. And also there's the bookmarks button is up here, which is interesting. So now you can add your bookmarks from up here. So maybe a preference on whether you like one or the other. Again, they're testing this. There's only a small percentage of users that get access to this. So I'm sure they'll give the feedback. Now, where I think most of the feedback is going to go is when people are looking at this and they're fed up. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you watching this, are cringing by looking at this if you haven't seen it in your actual file, or completely freaked out the first time they saw this because they actually showed this without warning, right? They just changed the way QuickBooks looks without warning. And like people like myself, accounting professional that does this stuff all the time, we're creatures of habit. We see something different and we just freak out. But people, if they go in the gear menu on the top right, there is I'll zoom out a little bit. There is a switch previous version of QuickBooks. And then there's a little link here that says learn what else has changed. So you can click on that and then it gives you what has changed here. So although I'm not sure what they mean by this in terms of changes. So unified user management, centrally managed roles and permissions for all users. I don't think any actual feature has changed or updated for that. Unified data flows across. Again, there's no new transactions, new transaction types, no new functionality. Unified settings, apply them across the platform. See, there's the platform word again. Okay, it's not QuickBooks, the app, is the platform. Third-party integrations brings data outside. Okay, so like, I don't think, none of these things, actually, it's a new feature. I think they've just been resituated or let's say optimized for better discovery. And I don't know if any of these things are new features. So pardon me if I'm saying that there's no new features, but any of these things are actually actual new features. So I will back out of having a hard opinion on whether or not there's a new feature that maybe I haven't discovered. Okay. So I'll X out of that. It's good to mention that you can search transactions, contacts, reports, help, and more, whatever that more means. So the searching has gotten better. And when you click on advanced search, this screen has changed too, right? So when you actually go in there and change, pick, let's say I want to do invoices or bills or something like that, and then you search across all your bills. So let's look at one that has data on it. Let's go in here and we'll go and select transaction type, bills, and it gives you all your bills. And then you pick, maybe for a particular vendor only, and then you see the bills only for that vendor. Okay, and you can go through and run through the filters. Okay, well, I guess none of these have a bill. There you go. So we have that there. We have a link straight to the contact. So if I click on that, it should take me to the vendor page, and it opens in a new tab. That's wonderful. That's great. I mean, they learned that from user feedback. So that's there. You can still collapse this little vendor list, but you can't collapse the apps navigation bar for some reason, on this version anyway. So the search is really good. And then there's additional filters here. So we have memo, description, tracking number, which is a custom field, products and services accounts, custom fields. That's really good. You can search by custom field, location, class, and then here under customize, you get to choose how you want to sort it, how many rows to show, which is a maximum of 200, which is funny because other screens have a maximum of 300. So I'm not sure why they pick a different one here. Columns, which columns you want to show. I wish they had more data showing in this, but that's not bad. And then we have filters here that you can actually change the order of the filters. This is new, so I'll grant you that. So for example, let's say you want to see transaction type first, contact second, date range third. So you click on customize, go to filters here, and then we'll drag transaction type first, and then contact second, and then date range third. And there's a little bit of a delay after you drop it, but you X out of that and you get to see the new change of filter. So that's really cool. Anytime you customize the experience for me, I think that's a net a positive change always. So I think that's great. So I actually like that. And then there's a little button here that says go to all transactions, which basically removes all the filters and shows every possible transaction that can show up here, up to the 200 rows or whatever. And there's also this little cool alternate row color, which makes it easier to see the rows. I like that. I wouldn't complain about that. So I think that the overall search screen has received a lot of upgrades, but I think that's independent from this new, little gray border dashboard style. Now, except generally, I have criticism for anything that QuickBooks creates, but this one I don't have a lot of criticism over. I mean, there's a big button that allows you to switch back to the old version, and when you click on switch, they're probably going to ask you for feedback, and this is probably where they're gonna get the feedback to decide, whether or not the new experience has it's received well. I think that if you switch out of it, essentially you're giving the signal that you don't want to be on the new version. So most of it means it's not being received well. But I like the fact that you can do that. The profile button hasn't changed. The help button hasn't changed. That's the same. The notifications button, that's the same. This my integrations. These are what I meant by third-party apps are being like. That's what I mean by apps. It's a third-party app that gets integrated. And find integration sends me to the apps.com search, which is great. This little lightning bolt is for workflow automation. That's only available in the advanced edition. And then we have our tasks for so the users can create tasks or delegate tasks and that sort of thing. So that's for the most part what we got to say. So we got this version, we got that version. Yeah, so we have the same old QuickBooks Online. We have a A/B test that takes it from the old black left navigation bar to a grayish navigation bar, where instead of these things being called menu, they're now called apps. And again, it's given the illusion of that it's an ecosystem. I don't want to say the illusion really, because it is truly an ecosystem, but it's changing the perception that people have, right? Because QuickBooks has a lot of things, and a lot of people don't realize that QuickBooks is extremely powerful because they see QuickBooks as a whole bunch of features. And I think that now when they see QuickBooks or Intuit QuickBooks as a platform of apps that come built into their $60 a month package or whatever, I think people will appreciate all the features that it has even more, just because of the way they're laid out. And that's the point I want to make is you kind of have to understand that when Intuit thinks about improving something, they're not really looking to make power users' lives easier. Like accountants and power users reacted to this the way I expected. It's, like if you go in the Facebook groups and the LinkedIn groups and Reddit, everybody kind of says the same thing. They say stuff like, why do they have to mess with something that doesn't need to be fixed? Or why are they making changes on areas that nobody asked them to make changes on? Or things like, why fix that when there's this other thing that needs fixed? And QuickBooks Online has a lot of things that need fixed, to be clear. So, of course, the power users are all kind of annoyed that they're changing the way QuickBooks looks. And again, they're creatures of habit. They're making their brain rewire about where they click and where to go. Of course, they're not going to like it. And because they're not really adding new real functionality that improves the lives of business owners, then it's hard to get buy-in on these things. And I'll be honest with you, my first reaction is I hated it. That's my first reaction. And my second reaction is, oh crap, is this going to preclude me from being able to use WriteTool? So really quick, WriteTool is a Chrome extension that I co-designed that it's meant to improve a lot of the functionality in QuickBooks Online. And essentially the way it works is there's a right navigation bar, and the purpose of the right navigation bar is to add additional buttons. So you see like red buttons added all over the place. That's us, WriteTool, adding additional functionality. And WriteTool allows you to control a lot of your QuickBooks functions from WriteTool itself, so you don't have to depend on a left navigation bar, which is why I liked collapsing the left navigation bar and completely forgetting that it exists and kind of running WriteTool the entire time. So when this first came out, WriteTool wasn't working 100%, and we had to overnight fix things to get WriteTool to work. So maybe I'm also biased because I've been using WriteTool for almost 3 years, and I kind of like a completely customized left navigation bar. Maybe Intuit did this as a reaction to WriteTool. Who knows? Maybe they're like, holy crap, WriteTool is so popular. You got over 30,000 users. We got to take control over the narrative of what navigation looks like. Or maybe, as I mentioned in the beginning, with where QuickBooks is trying to sell you payroll or payments, maybe this whole thing is really truly designed to make the discoverability of additional sellable products easier, right? So maybe long term, they're trying to get the average small business user to feel like QuickBooks, again, is an ecosystem of apps, and it makes them feel like, oh, why not add one more app to it, right? Because the more apps you add to your phone, the more powerful your phone is. So I add the payroll app, or I add the payments app, or I add the bill payment app, or I'll add my financing app where I can get a loan, or my banking app where I can also use QuickBooks as a bank. And I think, strategically speaking, these designs are not really meant to please power users. They're really meant to make the average small business user feel like the software is a lot more friendly, a lot more powerful, and ultimately lead people into buying some additional services. So generally I criticize anything that QuickBooks gets quite harshly immediately. I actually don't dislike it. Now, I don't feel more productive using this. So if any of the files I'm working on get this, and these two are sample files only for testing purposes, I would immediately switch to the old way just because I don't want to be slowed down. But granted, the fact that they're beta testing 2 versions of this leads me to believe that this is not let's see how people react and figure out if we're going to change to this. I think this is here to stay. They're just trying to figure out which version of it is going to be pushed forward. So I think that the old school version of QuickBooks with this black left navigation bar and just kind of the traditional way that you're used to using QuickBooks, I think the days are numbered. Keep in mind that this design, is from 2013, so it's been 12 years, and it's possible that someone into it feels that QuickBooks Online, it's already dated, or it doesn't look as modern as some of the new apps that are coming out. And this could also be their responses. Hey, if we don't look modern like some of the new apps that are coming out, then they're gonna see us as the old app that feels old, that dated. Kind of like Excel and Google Sheets, right? So Google Sheets feels a lot more modern than Excel, and a lot of people, moved quite quickly to Google Sheets, even though Excel is a gazillion times more powerful. But that look and feel of modernity does bring a lot of new users into the mix. So I don't know. I don't have any inside knowledge in terms of what triggered this decision. And all I know is that on April 17th, a bunch of people got this and a bunch of people reacted to it. And it took me a couple of days to put this video together, just because I didn't want to, if I would have made the video the day it came out, the video would have been a lot more reactive. And after using it a couple of days, and most importantly, after getting right tool to work in it, I'm actually not completely against it. I do, again, probably my biggest challenge is on this version it's not being able to collapse that, because it just takes away real estate that I want. And keep in mind, not everybody uses right tool, but I use right tool. So I'm also consuming some real estate from the right hand side. And let's turn on right tool here as well. Right tool is there as well. Let's see what happens if I go to transactions banking. So yeah, we kind of have the same challenge here with this version. Is this left area is taking way too much real estate, and if you also add right tool to it, we're cutting off 40% of the space to be able to use QuickBooks. So so obviously, one of the things I immediately feel is, look, this version of QuickBooks Online is going to turn off some people from using right tool, because you can't collapse a left navigation bar. So again, I don't know if Intuit, again, is reacting to right tool as well, or all the other theories that I mentioned as to why they're doing this switch. I have more of a feeling that it's because of what I said earlier. It's trying to make it easier for small business owners to feel that this is a unified platform, and for them to add more apps, and for Intuit to be able to cross-sell more products and services in the long run. I think that's truly the reason why they're going this route. But again, if you've never heard of right tool before, because you don't follow my channel, I'll put a link to that as well, so you can download the free version of right tool. And there's also a pro version that has a whole bunch of features. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Go in the comments and tell me, which version of this do you have? Do you have the one that has the create button, or the one that doesn't have the create button on the left navigation bar? What do you think? Whether you have it or based on the video, what do you think? Is it better? Is it easier? Does it feel faster? Does it feel more snippy, zippy? Do you think this is a long-term good idea or bad idea? Go in the comments. I would love to see what you think about this. See you in the next one.